Okay, welcome back to our tutorials on Amazon Bedrock Agentcore. We're going through these samples that are in a repository that got released with Agentcore by Amazon, and I like them. They provide a nice framework to do testing and get familiar with all the functionality in Agentcore. So basically, we're in the tutorials folder. We cloned this repo. We're in the tutorials folder. We went through runtime, gateway, identity, memory, and now we're in the tools folder. And what I found interesting was the browser tool. This this is a project which is demonstrating NovaAct using Playwright browser program, which basically allows you to use natural language to talk to Playwright and have Playwright follow instructions that enable it to search on the web for certain things and even complete orders if you know what you're doing. So I wanted to show you this because I think it's interesting and it's worth going over. So let's see. As you know, I'm running Python. These are all Python codes. Each one of I'm in a notebook, which is a getting started Agentcore browser tool with NovaAct. Let's see. We have a virtual environment here, which is using Python 3.14. As you could see from our command line editor, we have the environment. We're using an environment on the command line editor, which means that this command prompt is using that virtual environment. We are in PyCharm, and if you notice the preferences, we can go into the interpreter and see all the packages we have installed. Now, my goal is to get things working and get some results before I update anything here. But here I'm allowed to update this. And where this arrow is, I could just dynamically click on this and update. But the different approach that I'm taking is in the folder, let's say this browser tool folder with the browser with NovaAct. There is a requirements file which the notebook is installing. This is supposed to be -- quiet, but I just did this to see what would happen, and so it's not quiet, which finding is a little disturbing. But I've had problems with this repo. Now the notebook itself is going through some simple cells. First, it installs everything based on requirements. Then it creates this NovaAct Python file, and then what it does is it runs. It creates a NovaAct key, and then it runs Python on the command line. And what it does is it generates this HTML page, as you can see, which has the results. So when you go through these repos, some of them work perfectly. Some of them have the documentation in the notebook, and sometimes I just have problems with some of them. But I brute force try to get through it, and so because it's there to learn, and we have to learn this. So just to let you know, we're in this notebook, and we're going to run these things. The notebook sort of generates these Python files, let's say. One notebook is running and dumps a file into an HTML directory, which we're going to look at. So let me go a little bit backwards, right? Let's, just for argument's sake, so this is the HTML file that it produced. Basically, let's take a look and see what's in here. Yes. Okay, so this last file I was looking at, what it does is it sets up an agent, an LL model, and it uses Playwright to hit on a browser instance and use natural language to talk to tell it what you want it to do. So in this case here, I do search for MacBooks and list the first product detail. I point to Amazon.com, and my Python code is basically pointing to um, Playwright. And what it does is it should interactively open up the browser and do all this stuff for you, and you could see it in real time as it's testing and doing the use case scenario. And that was working. All of a sudden, it just didn't work. But I managed to get this thing running, so when it dumps the file, I could see what it did. So in this case here, just showing you the results, it fired up Amazon. Then it did a search on MacBook, and then I asked it to look at the detail of the first result, and it's showing me the detail. So just imagine what this thing could do. Playwright's used as a testing tool. Playwright's made by Microsoft, and Amazon Nova Act is actually using this. Now, to give you a little bit of idea of what Nova Act is, right? Because I did go through this with a demo and find in great detail. Nova Act is a website by Amazon, and it allows you to chat with Nova Act, speak, create an agent, create a UI agent, and you could do all these different things. You can get an API key, and you could use it. And that's exactly what we're doing. So let's go back to the code, and let's take a look at the code. Okay, so I'm looking at this first notebook, and if you look at the requirements, it's using Nova Act, Bedrock Agentcore, Boto 3, UV, Rich, Fast API, and UV Icon, whatever. And so, and like I said, and this is what we're gonna do. So when we install this thing for Python, everything's going to be installed in the Python library, in this library. So notice we have tons of stuff here. And what I have arranged here is that the samples folder, the clone repository that AWS gives you, I've created a virtual environment for Python. And I'm running this notebook using that virtual environment. So when I install or force reinstall, it's cleaning up house for me, and it's doing a reinstall because a lot of these folders might use different versions of the packages. So basically, and I did have quiet here, but I had some issues, and I was trying to figure out how to get this thing work. Now, needless to say, when I first ran this, I was getting a guardrail error for the longest. Well, when I first ran it, it worked perfectly. It showed me the browser, popped up the browser, and it worked. I don't know how that happened because I couldn't get that working for quite a while after that. So I've been reinstalling and debugging and stuff, but it's a simple repo, right? So what it does is it installs what's needed installed. You'll see a whole bunch of errors here, which you start seeing about incompatibilities. A lot of it has to do with OpenTelemetry, but it's using cache stuff. Somehow this worked a little bit. You know, for the most part it worked, but I don't know what was wrong. For a while, it was giving me a guardrail error, and I couldn't figure out where there was no guardrails really defined, and so I couldn't figure out that. But anyway, just let me show you a little bit what's going on here, because you want to get the install right, and usually it's all installed properly, but then eventually, since you're uninstalling and reinstalling for different folders, you might start seeing some weird stuff. So this is open telemetry instrumentation. This is typically what you do on Agentcore in AWS to get some observability and stuff like that. It's not, I don't really consider it important in this demo right now based on what I'm looking at. So you'll just see a lot of this stuff. So it'll tell you what's successfully installed, and like I said, you could go up to the virtual environment and see if their packages are installed, and they could be installed. And you could also go to your virtual environment and remove something and reinstall, just if you're having a problem, which is what I did, which worked. I removed Nova Act and then I installed again. And even though I got all these warnings, these incompatibility errors, I got it to work. Okay, sometimes you'll get this error that pip needs to be upgraded, so I did that. This here writes the file. What it writes is this file right here, which we're going to run. So the cell has all the code for the file, and it writes it. Now let's just take a look at what this thing is doing. It's writing basic browser with Nova Act PY. So it writes it over here. Now this is Jupyter Notebook running in PyCharm. So this notation here is instructing Jupyter to write this file, which is really nice because your code stays in the cell, the file gets written, and you could keep changing the code and writing it to disk. Okay, so now what does this thing do? It's a browser automation script using Amazon Bedrock Agentcore and Nova Act. Okay, so let's just dig into that, but we're gonna have to dissect this a little bit more about what this really means. Now, an agent uses LLM, which uses Playwright automation browser tool. So there's some things going on here. So it demonstrates AI-powered web automation by initializing a browser session through Amazon Bedrock Agentcore, connecting to Nova Act for natural language web interactions. Okay, so this is good because Nova Act takes the natural language and starts talking to Playwright, right? It's helping with the whole process. So we have an agent, we have an LLM, and what we're doing is performing searches and data extraction using the browser, filling out forms, let's say. And so basically what we want to do is we use a browser session. So we import that. We use Nova Act, and we import that. So that's what we need. And there's a rich console capability that we import. And we have an org parse and a JSON. We also have security options up here because I was trying to get through my guardrail error. I just couldn't understand why there was a guardrail error. And at the moment, I'm not seeing it. So let's just forget about it. Obviously, I will see what I did differently here. So now, Boto 3 session, we're instantiating a session, we're using a region, and then we have this function, which browser with Nova Act. We pass in a prompt, which says, search for MacBooks. We put a starting page, which is Amazon.com. We use our Nova Act key that we generated on the Nova Act website, and we define our region. So this thing is going to execute, and the big Nova Act instantiation is here. You define the web service URL, the headers, the clone. We have a clone use here, which is false. Now I did add this, the Nova Act key in the starting page. And this file just wants to take the arguments of the command line and just parse it. Add the prompt, starting page, Nova Act, region, etc. And then it gets the results. oh, there was a big problem here with the results. It was trying to get results response, and it didn't. It couldn't find it. I was getting an error, so it wasn't printing out the proper URL to look at the results. That was really what I just got through, which is okay. A little tweak of the code, and all of a sudden I'm seeing the output. So now I ran this thing, and it overwrote the Python file. Of course, I deleted this and then wrote it again because I was having so many problems. Now there's a Nova key here. As you notice, over here there's generate keys. Here's my Nova key. And when it first gets generated, you have to use it because that's the only time you can copy it and scrape it and use it. But I was, I think this Amazon Nova Act is in my West region. It is using my credentials on my local file system. So I think I logged into Amazon Web Services in a region, and then when I went to this URL, I believe I was logged in already. But the point is that this is your Amazon Nova site. So you could do all types of things with this. And what we're doing is we're using the browser to search for things. So even generate images, search for images, all that nice stuff. You could use these different models and get text back, links, URLs, images, etc. And in particular, we're using this one which aids in the natural language, telling Playwright what to do. So keep that in mind. A lot of things seem like it's magic, and you just can't assume that. It's a little bit smarter than you think. So let's go back over here, and let's see what happened. Okay, then what I did was I ran this command line, and I ran the Python code with a prompt: search for MacBooks and list first product detail. I gave it a starting page, and I gave it the Nova Act key. And as a matter of fact, I let me see what I did. Okay, so what happened is I ran this thing, and then what it did was dump the HTML file to a folder. And I could have sworn I got the browser running with this thing and it popped up, but I might be wrong because this next demo is a live view. So I think that definitely happens there. But finally I got this dumping a file. And when I copy and paste this thing into the browser, I'm getting these results. So really it's just showing me the results here. Step 1, step 2, and showing me the result, right? This one here, see this one here, this was just search for the MacBook, so there was no detail. It just automatically typed this into the Amazon search and showed me the search results. This one here, I said search and give me the first product detail. So it fired up Amazon, it typed in Mac notebooks automatically, and then it navigated to the detail. It's thinking, now I'm on the product page for the first result, therefore my last action was successful. I have searched the MacBooks and opened the first result. The first product detail is visible. My task is complete, and I need to return with the product detail, which is this style and this magic keyboard. I happen to be trying to buy a Mac right now, so this is a little bit interesting to me. So this is what it responded with. And that's without me firing up the browser, without me doing the manual searches and all that stuff. It used artificial intelligence to go get that stuff. And it even told me the time it took, which is, woo. I mean, might be fast enough for you, considering it's doing this automatically for you. You might not be that interested in seeing the result right away. If I said search for MacBooks, search for certain model and purchase it and mail it to my address, whatever, I wouldn't have to do anything. I would just be waiting at home for my laptop. So this time, you can either optimize it or not. So depending on how you optimize it, you have to see interactions and all the interactions that the AI is doing and how long it takes, and try to figure out whether you want to speed it up or not. But that's really what I wanted to do. So yes, I put this this URL in the browser, and now I'm just seeing it. Now, like I said, you can go here to Amazon Nova and do this dynamically with the user interface. You don't need to be coding in Python. So to give you an example, let's do a booking agent. There's all of these steps. You can add steps. You're adding actions, and you're pointing to next dash dot, which is, I guess, might be Amazon's sample web browser that could do certain things. In particular, all of these things. Right? So I consider it, let's assume it's a testing tool and there's a browser with search capabilities, and these demos are prepackaged and we're capable of doing. And you can create your own. And so what I did was, with my code, my Python code, I went through this and mimicked what we did in Python, and it worked. But you can, let's do an example and see how this works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up just to show you. It's hitting on a URL. It's following the instructions. Let's say the actions now, and what it's doing is it's filling out traveler information and going through the steps. So it's using natural language to interact with the application. That's exactly what it's doing. So that is a form of AI which helps. Playwright does testing. You could script the testing. Nova Act is using natural language to talk to this thing. So, I'm going to mention Agentcore because Agentcore, what's happening in Agentcore, I would have to go and say, what's our session ID? Is there any scans, any traces? Is there observability? What's going on with Agentcore? What does it have to do with Nova Act? And I just did that. It's not as straightforward as you like. Agentcore is straightforward, but what's going on here is not as intuitive as I expected. So it looks like it's still on the first step. It's still filling out the contact info. It has to go through all these steps, right? Now it's on the second step. So it's actually following like a breadcrumb, doing user navigation automatically based on natural language. This is great. I haven't really, most of the people, but there's a lot of testing tools, right? We were just using Sierra Test for AWS Connect. There's just different testing tools, and Playwright it seems to be the default for the AI stuff in Amazon. So I'm starting to use this, and it looks decent with AI, but we have a lot of testing tools, right, that could do different things. A lot of them are not visual that do the trick, but and this might be visual at the moment, but I might not even be interested in the visual aspect of this. I might be just interested in the results. So this is entering payment information now. I'm using a prepaid code. So look, we're at step 5, I guess. Okay, so let's just end this because this could go on. These things can go on for quite some time. It's asking me to build with Nova Act SDK. I don't want to do that because all my SDK stuff is in here. I'm actually doing that in the Jupyter Notebook right now. So I am using the Python SDK. Let's just go look for it and I'll show you. Where is Nova Act? Nova Act, where are you? Oh my God. It's over here. So there's some packages here. So that's why I didn't care too much about what was going on. So over here it showed me the search I was going through and what we were doing. There is another one here. We're gonna go through this. If it fails, we're just gonna end the video. But it's been failing all along. I just want to see if it works this time. So I'm gonna click this. This is using this different file. Now let's go find the file. Don't get intimidated by all these packages. You just got to make sure that this is at the high level with the samples repository, and it's being used by all these folders. That was the difficult part of this. You could always remove those and reinstall them. It might take some time, but okay, let's see what's happening here. Now this is doing something different. It's calling the browser. It's calling, well, it's using Nova Act. It's using the Nova Act key. It's calling a stock analysis URL to get some information about stock, Amazon revenue for the last 4 years. And it's finished. Let's just see if we got the we succeeded. I know I'm seeing a bunch of errors here, but I'm looking for, I believe when I ran this and it ran properly, I believe I just saw the output on the screen. So this says 10 seconds. So one thing I don't like about AI models, even the prompts and the responses can get kind of wordy or pain for tokens, but it's sort of like, how do you write a real-time application which uses the data efficiently? So it's prompt engineering, but you have to know what you're doing. But if you're just chatting with someone, it might be okay. But if you're going to be a precise API caller, you're going to probably have to tolerate some of this stuff. So I have no idea what's going on at this point. I don't think this worked. I got a cancel error. And I got no URL to point to the output. I believe I saw the output come on the screen when this thing was working. So I'm not going to get too hung up on this because most of them work. Most of the demos work. And if you have problems like this, you have to choose your battles. It's always good to learn to try to fix these things. Now this is interesting because I got the first working, but I'm not getting the second one working. So this is what I'm going to do, one more test. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, I'm going to grab this thing here. And I'm going to go to the command line, and I'm going to see what happens on the command line. Dear Lord. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the command line. What I'm going to do is I'm going to move this bang. And what I'm going to do is, look at that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this key and I'm going to replace this Nova Act key. Dear Lord. Now I just want to point out that if you see my command line, I'm pointing to the virtual environment, the same virtual environment that's in my IDE up above. Now, keep in mind that this command line could be talking to a different virtual environment. Python shows me what the virtual environment is. It's this one. And this really shows me which one, and it's this one because I removed everything else. But just keep in mind that you could be pointing to different versions of Python here. So let me see if this works without the quotes. And if this doesn't work, we're just going to end the video because it's not worth putting you through this hell. You could clone the repo and do your own testing. Like I said, the key to success here is set up the virtual environment right. So notice the call. The call, extract and return Amazon revenue. That's the call that's happening with the browser. You're telling it to it says it succeeded, which is interesting. But then it just I am getting some errors, which not errors, but some warnings saying that this doesn't support the preview and stuff like that. But I'm very sure I ran this and I saw the text results, but the browser's been closed. So where are the results? Took 10 seconds, ended the session, says it succeeded, but I don't even see the results. Anyway, for homework, try to make this work. There is also a different browser to use. So Playwright is pointing to a certain browser like Chromium or whatever, and it uses that. So you got to make sure that works too. But it's really interesting because this guy succeeded. I didn't see any output on this one either. But did it? Yeah, I think what I did was that command line over here, and it did show me the URL. So so the bottom line is you got your hands full here, but usually these folders run very easily, and we're not going to dwell into this. We're going to end this video now, and I just want to see if I have my previous result here. See, it was getting a little bit crazy. I did a playwright install here on the command line, because I'm in the directory that this Jupyter Notebook is in. So this was 22 seconds, and see, view your act run. It gave me the folder, and it did succeed. It said it succeeded. Now, I just did the second test the same way. Oh, here I did search for MacBooks and list the first product detail. I did 2 tests here and generated 2 pages. But anyway, that's all for today. We'll look at this other Jupyter Notebook, which is the live browser. The browser should come up with that. All right, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.